So Gary Cook had said to Mark, right, the owners, Man City, they want to make a statement. And at one time we had 30 million plus circa 30 million for Berbatov, for Robinho, for Frank Ribery, because they were just chucking out to these clubs in Europe, 30 million, and which one would bite. So Mark was saying, well, these are the ones we got bids on already, and they're going to get back to me when one of them bites. And as it turned out, it was Robinho. All of a sudden, they get this thing through from the president of Barcelona. Apparently, Man City have offered 35 million for Lionel Messi. What actually happened was somebody had turned around, probably Gary Cook, and said, Jesus Christ, this is getting messy. So somebody has literally sent an offer to Barcelona for Lionel Messi. We are interested in Lionel Messi. The president's come back and gone, who do you think you are? Well, you think you can buy Lionel Messi off us? No chance. Please back away. And because somebody in the office said, we think this is Messi.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited for this.
It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, pleasure. And Charlie, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm still not really sure how to introduce you properly because we've got Mark, the manager, the player, sporting director. So I think I want to leave this up to you to do my job. How do you look at your role in football?
I guess more than anything, a learning role right the way through. I think of myself as being a faster, quick learner. You know, from going... You go through your playing days, and like back in the day, let's say, when every player was wondering, what am I going to do? And I'm, that 35-year-old cut-off age when I'm finished, what am I going to do? And, you'd be planning your pensions as it turned out and things like this. But you still really had no real idea. And then you go into coaching, and I suppose like any would-be coaches or coaches that just started out there, and older coaches tell you the same thing. When you first step onto the grass and you've got a group in front of you that you've got to control, teach, educate, learn, whatever you want to do, it's a totally different mindset, it's a different skill set. I always used to think to myself when, players used to, this narrative that would be out there that you finish playing, you go into being a manager because you're a good player. And I always, like, in my head, I'd be shouting and saying, but it's a different skill set. Completely different to just being a player where, let's be fair, and I might get shot down for this, but 99% of players are very, very selfish people. And they have to be. Yeah, you're in a team game, but you have to look after yourself and, let's say, look after the name on the back of the shirt. Otherwise, there's not too many players who just basically just play for the fun of it and they want to help their teammates that get on, certainly not to the top levels. You've got to be single-minded, you've got to be focused, you've got to, perhaps use it a bit loosely, you've got to be selfish in what you do.
But as a manager, it's the opposite.
Yeah, and then I say, you go into coaching where you've got to, and management where you've got to help people and you've got to see the bigger picture. That's why I guess as a player, you'd play on a Saturday and your emotional life would be in spikes. You win, everything's fantastic. You've played well, everything's fantastic. You don't, then you're wondering about what next? Am I going to left out the team, whatever? But when you're a coach, you have to be a little bit more where it's just waves, let's say. You can't get too ahead of yourself. And if you win, and you certainly can't get too down on yourself, you lose, because it's for the next training session, preparing for the next game.
You were playing at the height of when the game in this country was changing, weren't you? Because you had from Football League and then the establishment of the Premier League. What was that like as a player when you were playing in that first Premier League season? With Norwich, actually, as well, right? Who were top of the Premier League for most of it. What was that a massive change that was noticed when Premier League? No,
not for me. Not overnight. Certainly not. Even they talk about the money in the game now. It wasn't almost like from one season to the next.
What sort of money is one making in those days? Is it like the £100 a week? Is it the
No, it was. I would say circa. I mean, Norwich, smaller club anyway, but we had a very, very good side at the time, and I would get most of the players were on £2,000 a week. So again, for the time, decent money, but not something you'd think, well, I don't have to work again when I finish playing.
When you're a player at that stage and earning that money, are you really financially planning for a life post-football? Are you doing that proactively?
I speak for myself, really, Harry. It was always you're always worried, but you didn't really do a lot of planning. It sounds daft, doesn't it? But that you'd go to the PFA. They had people who'd sell you pensions, and you'd try to put money into a pension. But it was hard to, if you like, plan, because no matter what you put into a pension, that's never really going to keep you in the lifestyle you're accustomed to. So you're always looking at, am I going to start coaching? Am I going to? I mean, as it turns out, I played in the Premier League till I was 36, but you were always thinking, 35 cut off. What am I doing then? Where am I going to go from there?
Have you seen a change now? You've been in and around teams very recently. Have you seen a change in how players are educated and how their opportunities now are presented to help them facilitate a better career for themselves away from the pitch?
Well, every player these days has an agent. I would say, my opinion, most of them good. There's a few who probably don't, not as good as they should be. Let's say, I've been a bit diplomatic there, but they're all, everything's sort of deferred to the agent now. There's so much trust, it seems to me, to go to the agent, to not just from a football sense, but they let the agent deal with their money side of things, and there's good agents, good companies who look after their money and plan for them. Because, listen, the ones certainly at the top there's so much money involved that they have to.
You said agents, some of them are not good. Like, how is an agent bad?
I think a lot of it will do again with maybe communication. I've known players I've spoke to. Let's say, what are you doing with your money? Where does your money go? And I've had the answer back, well, I'm not sure really. My age, I leave to my agent, he gets on with it. And I find that astonishing that they put so much trust in their agents, and then maybe, let's say, further down the line, few years down the line, they find out they when they get that number or what they've got, it isn't quite what they thought it would be. Let's just say that. But so it's, and it just generally is. I'm talking, okay, from a football sense, Harry, there's agents who will just want to move their player on to another club because it's another payday for themselves. I think they're getting few and far between now. Most of the top agents, players are with the top agencies. They know what they're doing. They're very good at what they do.
Mm-hmm. It's still challenging, I think, isn't it? It's a massive conflict on some occasions when agents' objectives and those of the players don't necessarily align. When you're in a management situation in a football club, do you deal directly with the agent and not actually talk to a player about things? Or will you speak to both?
You'll speak to both, but I would say it's 80% the agent. You get everything nailed down, finances with the agents, and the players will always want to come to speak to the manager, to see the training ground, to see the stadium. And the one key factor I think we haven't talked about in amongst that then is, I think more and more these days that parents are getting involved. And not just parents of, let's say, teenage players, young players, even parents of older players, and obviously the likes at the very top end. Jude Bellingham's got a fantastic agent looking after him, but I know obviously his mum and his dad are very much involved in, pointing in the right direction and advice and whatever, and Harry Kane's as well. So, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it can be, let's say, a bit trying when it's, with younger players more so, because every dad thinks his player's the best player that's walked the earth. So, and sometimes a little bit of a reality check in a nice way. You have a conversation with them about, the expectation on contracts or whatever.
Who's the best manager you've worked with?
Oh, well, obviously I had 17 years working with Mark as his number two. I still say to this day, I don't think Mark gets and you could say, you would say that, Mark being his number two, but I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for the job he did at a lot of the clubs we were at,
Where did he do the best job?
We went into Blackburn Rovers, and again, Blackburn had a history. They'd won the Premier League, but they were bottom of the Premier League, and we were there 4 years and finished, top 6, top 7, top 5 or whatever it was in 4 years. Manchester City were very interesting. You're going into a club that was...
were you there when you brought in Robinho?
I was going to say, what was it like when Robinho came?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It's an interesting story. We had... so we go to Man City. Thaksin Shinawatra was the owner, the ex-Thai PM. And he had his little entourage around him. Gary Cook, who's now at Birmingham City, was the chief executive. So we're in there, season's just about to start. We're looking in different players. And we'd actually gone out to... We'd gone to Germany to see Vincent Kompany playing for Hamburg, playing central midfield. And we'd gone to Espanyol to watch Pablo Zabaleta playing. And we'd thought, they'll do for us, good players. We'll see how the transfer window goes. So the season comes to a start. First game of the season, we play Aston Villa away. Well, I think we get beat 4-0. okay? Come in afterwards. So we're in Birmingham. Next minute, one of Taxon's people come in and said, you got to go to, you and Mark, 2 Marks, we got to go to the Hotel de Van in the middle of Birmingham for a meeting with Sinuata's people right now after the game. So I asked Mark, I said, don't tell me we're getting the sack after 1 game. Because he just didn't know what the hell was going to happen, you know? It's because we'd lost to Aston Villa. So we go to the hotel, we sit down, Mark and I, and Gary Cook says, right guys, got a problem. What's the problem, Gary? He went, like, Tottenham have offered 10 million, one hit cash up front for Koluka, okay, who was a Serbian right back. And he was probably our best player. And Mark said, you are kidding me. What do you mean? We just got beat by Aston Villa 4-0. You're selling our best player. Well, cash flow for Sinuata, he wants the money, blah, blah, blah. So Gary Cook's sitting there sort of crumbling in his seat. And he turned on and he says, right, but Mark, listen. Okay, if you agree to it, because it's going to happen, we'll let you get like 1 or 2 players in. So, okay, how much? So Gary looks around, he goes, I think he should pick the number at midday. He said, 6 million, but he won't be able to play in one hit. We can maybe pay 2 million this year, 2 million next year too. Shit, right, okay, what are we doing? So I looked at Mark looked at me, he says, what are we doing, Bo? I said, okay, let's go and get Vincent Kompany out of Hamburg and go and get Zabaleta. Zabaleta's right back, Vincent's a midfield player. Well, we think he's a centre-back, really. So Gary Cook says, takes the names down, he goes, right, okay, yeah, we'll get those done. I'll get it tonight, we'll have them, like, by Monday, we'll solve it Sunday, Monday, we come in, offers have been put in for those 2 players. I think Zabaleta was around about 2 million euros. Vincent was about 3.5 million euros, but staggered. So they come into the club. First, like, couple of training sessions we play, and first game we played, Vincent plays centre midfield, comes in afterwards, like, so following week, I'm sort of coaching, he goes out, he's centre back. He comes with Bowie, I need to speak to you. He said, I'm coming to play centre back. He said, I'm not a centre back, I'm a midfield player. I said, well, it's not quite the way we see you then. We think, like, you can play football, the way the game's going, you can be a centre-back rather than in there, because he wasn't very good, like, with people coming from behind him, you know what I mean, if he's receiving the ball. So we put him into centre-back. And I always tell people now, this is one of the best centre-backs the Premier League's ever had, and he did not want to play centre-back. He said, I've only come here to play midfield at Manchester City.
When Robinho comes, I remember this was like
amazing.
That's unbelievable.
I remember it because Chelsea were trying to get it.
We were trying, and then it was like 32.5 million, and it was a big thing, big thing.
Well, we had the day it happened. It was, I think, it was deadline day almost.
Yeah, it was.
So Gary Cook had said to Mark, right, the owners, they want to make a statement. They have to make a statement straight away, And so we played in the Man City Academy's golf day, and we were on the buggy going round. And almost every 10 minutes, Mark's phone was going bing, bing, bing. And at one time, we had 30 million plus circa 30 million for Berbatov, for Robinho, for Frank Ribery, because they were just chucking out to these clubs in Europe, 30 million, and which one would bite?
Football Manager.
Right? So that's what we're doing. So Mark was saying, well, these are the ones we got bids on already, and they're going to get back to me when one of them bites. And as it turned out, it was Robinho. So Man City around this time had now started, they'd only had about a year or so, they had an office in London. So while all this was going on, Gary Cook's in London. He's got different people on the board who were in there, and all chasing around, ringing this, ringing that. So all of a sudden, they get this thing through from Barcelona, from the president of Barcelona, who basically goes online and in the media saying, who the fuck do Man City think they are? They're taking the piss and blah, blah, blah. So what's happened here? Well, apparently, Man City have offered 35 million for Lionel Messi. Now, at the time, believe it or not, it wouldn't have been a ridiculous thing to say, because people were talking at the time at Ribery and Messi, which is the better of the two, whatever. So we get to the bottom of it. It's a true story. So they were kicking off going, what actually happened was all the people are in this office and somebody had turned around, probably Gary Cook, and said, Jesus Christ, this is getting messy.
Oh, no.
So somebody has literally sent an offer to Barcelona for Lionel Messi. We are interested in Lionel Messi. The president's come back and gone, who do you think you are? Well, you think you can buy Lionel Messi off us? No chance. Please back away. And because somebody in the office said, we think this is Messi. It's true. Like that.
That is
Yeah,
nuts.
honest to God.
I remember there was a 100 million bid that went in supposedly for Kaka, wasn't there?
Well, we had,
I mean, that was
no,
like-
it was true. It was true. We had. I tell people the story that we wanted. Joe Hart was there, and if enough Kasper Schmeichel, but they were young. So Mark had looked early and said, right, we ended up getting Shea given, but he'd looked and said, look, they're going to be good keepers, but they're a bit young at the moment. So we actually flew by private jet to Turin to speak to Buffon, Gary Cook, Mark, and myself. Plane lands, get off, go into the business lounge in Turin Airport. Buffon comes in with his agent. We sat down. They offered him, Gary offered him, and this is 2010, I think it was around about 400 grand a week, right? And because he was going to be the basically, loss leader for the club, the big name to kick everything on. And we shook hands on everything. Literally an hour later, jumped back on the plane from Turin, the flight flew back, got off the plane. As we get in the terminal, Gary Cook's looked at his phone. He's gone, oh, Jesus Christ, what's that guy? He said, the players turned around and said, no, he's thought about it, sorry. I can't move. This is my club, my boyhood club. I'm staying here. And we're thinking, right, so we've just flown 6 hours, 3 there, 3 back. We've offered him 400 grand. He shook hands on the deal. Time we got off the plane, he's gone, not coming. And Mark's looking at me going, this is madness. This is madness. What's going on here?
And that's your statement piece.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But it's loads of, little things like that were happening all the time. It was like, great to be a part of.
What was it like when Robinho came in?
Well, Robbie was, again, people forget. I think people would look at Robinho thinking, oh, it was a carnage. But he actually scored goals, did a decent job. If he'd have probably gone into a Man City team now, almost definitely, he was a top player. Yeah. But it was a club that was growing. There were still people there. They were like way, way out of their league and where the club wanted were going to go. And, he was coming in. You could see his frustration at times, and...
I was going to say, you can't just drop great players into teams, right?
You couldn't just parachute them in. There's got to be a structure there to do it.
What was the worst signing you did at City?
Wow. What was the worst signing?
Joe for 18 million.
Well, yeah. That again, Joe was one of those on
18 at the time was a lot of money.
How did that happen?
Well, Kia's Rabshin, got in with the ownership group a little bit and started offering his players in. But again, I'd say
was Joe obviously not a great signing pretty quickly?
I would say he's not a bad player. He's not a bad player, I mean, we brought Rocky Santa Cruz in because he'd done amazing for us at Blackburn, but he was in the building sort of, let's say a month, whereby the physio was saying to us his knee's buggered. He had an operation his knee sort of 4 months ago.
What happens to Joe and Rocco Santa Cruz now?
Rocky was up until about 3 months ago. He was still playing in Paraguay at 40 years old.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think was the best signing you made when you were at City?
It got to be Vincent Kompany. Yeah. Got to be, really.
Well, especially for that.
Yeah, for that. And, it stood the test of time. Zabaleta as well. Pablo came in and, he was there for 10 years, wasn't he? 10, 12 years. And
so actually, thank you, Chioluka.
Yeah. So I always remember, we went into the club and we had one pre-season. I actually said, "This is interesting. You like this one, Harry?" So we travelled to Abu Dhabi for the first time for a training camp. And when we get there, Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, who's the chairman now, he comes in and he's sitting, we had a little five-a-side with him and he's sitting down having a coffee. So, you can ask questions. So I said to Khaldoon, I said, they just bought the Louvre Gallery, okay? So what's happened there? He said, well, we bought the Louvre Gallery, became a chunk to the government. All this allowed us to do is we can build one in Abu Dhabi, and it gives us the right, I think, for 10 years to take 90% of their pieces for 1 week or 2 weeks to the Louvre Gallery. He said, again, it's a loss leader for us, you know what I mean? The only one we can't have is the Mona Lisa, okay? Everything else will come out. So, okay. Next thing, we'll buy the Chrysler building in New York. And I said to him, why? He said, well, because we can. We need to get out there, Mark, and show this is our intent, So their investment fund was called Mubadala. That was the name of it, okay? Like now you're the Saudis with the PFI, Public Investment Fund. Their investment fund was called Mubadala, and Khaldoon was the head of Mubadala. So we're sitting down with him and said, so Khaldoon, how much you got in there, like? And he sort of looked up and sort of look a smile. He said, no, give us an idea. You went, about $1 trillion. And we went, what? He went, but $1 trillion? He said, but that's for me, and because he's best friends with Sheik Mansour. So basically, he said that's all we got to promote Abu Dhabi. I'm like, well, it ain't bad, like, do you know what I mean?
How was he to work with? Were they good?
We didn't see a lot of him, mate. Maybe, I think in hindsight, I think Mark, being the person he is, a very private person, probably could have done more in terms of his relationship there, giving them more information. But it was almost the start of things. Mark was still like, well, I'm the manager. You know what I mean? I want to be in control of what I'm doing, and and trying to encourage him. Look, every Saturday, Mark, please ring Khaldoon, talk through the game, what you did well, what you didn't well, and that didn't sit great with Mark.
And they wanted that, did they? So they were in a lot, because you've said they're buying the Chrysler building, they got the Louvre. City wasn't just a trophy asset piece for them in a league; they were very invested. Yeah,
they were.
Is it hard though when you suddenly take over a club and you are in this cash-strapped situation, and suddenly you're like, these guys have $1 trillion.
Yeah,
like cash is infinite.
Yeah. Well, they had what they did with us, Harry. It was interesting. When Mark got sacked, so I got sacked as well. So the day we got sacked, the time we got sacked, we were third in the Premier League. Okay, we had a game in hand, and we were in the semi-final of the League Cup.
Why did you get sacked?
Exactly. So we'd actually, I was driving I was in Solihull, driving up to Manchester Saturday morning for the game. We were playing Sunderland at home. So I'm in the car, phone's gone, and it was a fellow called Neil Custis, who was writing for The Sun at the time. And I'd known him for many years. I said, hi Neil, how are you? He went, hi Mark. He said, I've got some bad news for you. I said, what? He said, you don't know, do you? I said, what? He said, you're gone. I was literally driving in the car with my missus and kids in the car. I went, what? He said, you're getting sacked today. I said, you're a kid? What? What are you talking about? He went, listen, he said, apparently it's all been done, and da-da-da-da. I went, all right. So I get to the ground. I'm like almost like shaking, like, what the hell? Get to the ground, and it's 3 o'clock kickoff. I would usually get there for about, say, 11:30. Mark would usually turn up 12:30. So I come into the ground, get into his office. Mark said there. So I went, you all right, mate? Have you heard the news? He went, yeah. I said, what, from Neil Custis? He said, oh, somebody else rang me. I said, what's happening? He went, absolutely no idea, mate. Can't get it. Head and tail, rang Gary Cook. He's blanked his phone and everything, I guess. So by the time kickoff comes, news is out there. Everybody knows. The players know. Vinny's the captain. Vincent Kompany comes in. He says, what the hell's going on? We're like, don't know, Vin. We just don't know. So we play the game. Really strange atmosphere. The fans are singing Mark's name, and we beat Sunderland 3-0 or 3-1. Game finishes. Mark literally steps onto the pitch and claps and goes like that, because he knows what's coming. We walk in. Again, the players are all going around, what the hell's going on? Don't know. Then he gets basically, somebody comes down and said, Mark, can you go upstairs and see Gary Cook and Khaldoon? So, okay. So Vinny, bless him, and a few of the players were like trying to get upstairs to see Khaldoon to say, what the hell's going on? You know what I mean? We're not having this and blah, blah, blah. Mark came down about 20 minutes later and says, yeah. He said, look, they just said, he said, the only words to him were, we won our own man. We've taken over the club. You were basically the previous owners. We've targeted our own man.
Do you think you weren't sexy enough for him? I mean this in a
Maybe.
nice way. You got Mark Hughes, who's come from Blackburn.
Yeah.
And Mark Bowen is a great Welsh dude.
Yeah.
And it's not the sexy Italian.
And I think
Mancini.
Don't rule out as well agents in the ears of Khaldoon. We can get you this one and get you that. And Khaldoon did he loved Italian football. His heart, no doubt he's here now in the Premier League, but at the time, I think he loved AC Milan or Inter Milan, whatever it was. He loved Italian football. So I think, Mark Hughes and Mancini, are we going to get him in? And he said to him, the only reason he didn't ask him sooner, Mark, is because he'd been living, apparently, so we heard, with Gary Cook for about 3 weeks. Or let's say in the area and, going for dinner with Gary Cook at his house and whatever. But we'd kept on winning games. So they were almost waiting until they thought, we can't go on any longer. We got to do it. So, but what I will say is this, right? I'll say this. So then all of a sudden we get the thing, myself, Eddie Nizveski, we go up and see, not Khaldoon, Gary Cook. Gary says, listen guys, suppose you've heard, there's going to be a change. Thanks for okay, so you come down, you're like feeling, wow. We didn't leave the stadium till about 10 o'clock at night, but you're actually talking and you're sort of going, right, it's happened. There's nothing you can do. But by the way, Mark, your profile... Yeah. How many managers have been sacked when they're third in the league with a game in hand and da-da-da-da? And then you get to, we had 18 months left on our contracts. I get up Monday morning and at midday, my personal banker is ringing me saying, Mark, you've had X amount put into your bank account this morning. I'm like, oh, right, okay, it's in, is it? He's gone, right, what's happened? I said, we got sacked Saturday. And it was literally like 10 o'clock on Monday morning, every single penny, boom, into your account.
So that because everyone always thinks like, no, manager gets sacked. Do you get a wedge though?
Well, there's two ways. It's changed. Sometimes on the odd occasion now, if you got in your contract, it's got to be paid by a certain time. But don't forget the likes of Di Matteo at Chelsea. He just basically, they put him on gardening leave. So they just paid him for the remainder of his contract, hoping he get another job so they can stop paying him. You know, but with us, they just paid it all up front. Thanks very much for what you've done. Bang, away you go.
Where did you get your biggest payout from?
Man City.
Where did you get your worst payout from?
Stoke, probably. Yeah.
Stoke.
Yeah, with Mark.
Christ, Stoke play boring football.
Well,
You
no,
guys-
we were there, Harry.
Sorry.
No, Christ, that's another
You
thing.
were,
When you said,
I remember going to a Fulham game at Craven Cottage in Stoke, and that was the one time I don't even like football. I mean, it was so.
you just opened up old wounds here, right? You have genuinely, and now I've got to get this story off my chest. No, it was. So we go into Stoke. So Tony Bruce has been the manager, right? They got Mark in and said, "Listen, whatever you're coming in, this is the way we want you to play. Otherwise, you're not coming." So okay. Play a different way. 4 years at Stoke. First 3 years, first year finished top 10. First time in their history. Second year finished top 10. Third year finished top 10. In the years we were there, they scored more goals than any time in their history in a season. Conceded less goals than any time in their history. Okay? You had people calling them Stoke Alona. Okay? Honest to God, right? Because the way we played. We've had like people like Bojan and Shaqiri and all this, like, right?
Ibrahim Afellay.
Yeah, Afellay. The fourth year, we started the season poorly. We had a bad run then. It got to about January, and we'd not spent one day in the bottom three. Not one day, okay? We played FA Cup third round away to Coventry. We got beat. Driving home, we'd been sacked. And I was literally in a car going, you were kidding me. We've completely transformed this football club. We're basically not even in the bottom three. One day we've been sacked. And I have to say, I would say this, ever since then the club's gone.
But who sacked you there?
John Coates, the owner of the club.
Bet365.
Bet365.
What was the best signing you made at Stoke?
Oh, we had bloody hell. We had loads.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
best one versus most fun. I mean, getting someone like Bojan out of Barcelona is amazing, but it may not have been the best player on the pitch.
My
Yeah.
God, you did get
Yeah,
Bojan.
Bojan.
Yeah.
Shaqiri, best
How
one.
on earth did you convince Bojan to go to
Exactly.
Stoke?
I don't know to this day. He actually came. His agent was Carlos Puyol, who was the ex-captain of Barcelona. And literally, we were having breakfast, the Dortmunds, and they come in, little entourage, Bojan, Puyol. I walked in, and who was it? Somebody there said, I think it might have been Afellay, who spoke Spanish, because he knew him, because he had spent some time at Barcelona. Afellay goes over, and they're shaking hands, and he gives him a can, and he bursts out laughing. And he comes over, and Afellay says, "Hey, what's happening?" He went, he said, "Puyol just gone, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?" So that's his agent walking in the building saying to us, what are we doing here? And Afellay was saying, "Oh, you love it here. You build a team around him and all this, like, and whatever."
He's going, yeah, this is boring.
But the best
shit.
one, Marko Nautovic. Marko was just,
Was
absolutely
Bojan a
nuts.
good signing though? No.
Yeah.
Well, he was. He played well, didn't he?
Yeah, at the height of he was there for 3 years, but at the height of his, if you like, playing ability for us, he actually did his cruciate ligament in a some like fourth round FA Cup tie against Lincoln City. Did his cruciate and he was out for about 6 months, 8 months. And he was never really the same after.
What was the worst signing?
Oh God. Don't know actually, mate. I don't know if I'm
When
being
you have a
diplomatic.
bad signing, is it a bit awkward?
No, because actually, I saw not that store. The worst signing we had was the last club we were at. We went to Southampton, and we get a call. I knew Les Reed, who was the vice chairman, and Les was my coach at Charlton, and I'd known him for many years. So Les rings up. What happened was we were out of the game, out of a job, and I kept looking at Southampton, and they were losing games. They had a Spanish coach, right, and they kept losing games. So as I tend to do, as I did with you, I picked the phone up, rang up Les Reed, Les, Mark, and he goes, "What do you want?" I said, "Les, I'd love to work with you. You know Mark as well, because he when we'd done our pro license, he was in charge of it." He went, yeah, and he sort of laughed, and he went, "Listen, Bo, we're not doing anything." He said, "We're sticking by him." I said, "Okay, mate, okay." I said, "We know where we are," right? Laughing, yeah. So the following week, I booked a holiday of a lifetime. Me and the missus went to Australia for like a month, well, nearly a month. So when we're out there, I'd be like every Saturday, whatever, Sunday morning, I'd be checking the results. So literally, we would do home on the Monday. On the Saturday before, Southampton played, they lost 3-1. So I think it was the Sunday morning. Phone's gone. So picked up, it's Les Reed. So my missus sitting there gone. I said, we're going to Southampton. She's gone, what? I said, we're going to Southampton. So I goes, hi Les. And he goes, right, don't get too excited. And I've gone, go on. He went, but send me Mark's number. I went, okay. I said, it would be good for you, mate. You know that. They had 10 games left, right? Bottom of the league. So, again, we go into Southampton. We stay up. Fantastic job. End of the season, 500 fans carrying Mark Hughes around on their shoulders in this place. Everybody's pissed. We stayed up. It's great. Go through the summer, and first thing we have, like, come back sort of before we left, it was like, right, what's happening, this, that, and the other. And he says, right, we're losing Dujan Tadic, right? He was the captain. He's our best player. So Mark said, what the fuck, what do you mean? I said, Les, you can't let Tadic go. He said, look, we've got a gentleman's agreement. So Mark's gone, again, gentleman's agreement? Well, nothing in writing. He said, look, when he signed his new contract, we promised him if a Champions League club came in, we could let him go. And Ajax are in for him. So he lets him go. Next minute, he brings in Elyounoussi, came in. Remember you went to Celtic as well? Yeah. So he came in and we go in, well, you brought him, nice young player, but he's going to press Tadic. Yeah, don't worry. And then it was like, right, centre-backs, Bedrenek. They had, I'm trying to think, well, it might have been Font. But anyway, the player they showed us was Vestergaard. So he's shown us Vestergaard. As we're looking at it, I know that when you look at it, you go, look at that. I go, I said, Les, he can't run. He said, yeah, what a unit. I said, but he can't run, he can't turn. He might be good like from corners and he's not great at them, but he's not like, he went, well, yeah, he said, don't fancy him. No. And Mark's going, no chance, Les. Anyway, we go away, Mark was on holiday. 10 days later, he rings me, he said, have you seen the news? I said, no. He said, we just signed Vestergaard. I went, you're kidding me. He went, no. So he rings up Les, goes, Les, what? He went, well, the Chinese owner quite liked him. And he going like, really? The Chinese owner liked him. And he comes in from day one, we're thinking, we lasted 10 games, we won 2, drew 1, lost 7, and they sacked us. And I literally can remember.
Vestergaard did quite well, didn't he, at Southampton?
Well, at the end he did, but at the start. But I can remember me and Mark jumping in our cars in the car park, literally at the train now, and going, no, you're driving out going, what happened there? What happened there? We've come in, we've kept them up, and 10 games into the new season, they've sacked us.
You sold Tadic, you lost that.
Yeah. And then you see like Hasselhüttl goes in there, and people see, he done a good job. He went through 2 periods where he won like 2 games in 24.
And lost 9-0 twice.
Yeah. And you're going like, I don't get it. Like, we got sacked after 10 games and we won 2. He's gone like 24 games and won 2 and lost 9-0.
Of all of these, where were you happiest?
I think probably right at the start of Blackburn. That's where is a little bit of throwback where you had the chairman, John Williams, who'd been chairman when they'd won the league and all this, Dalglish, and was the manager.
Was this before Venky's?
Yeah, the ones before Venky's. And although they didn't have the money that they had when Jack Walker was there, he'd left, but the board was still there and everything. But it was literally, get on with it. What do you want to do, guys? Well, we need to bring this one in. Okay, bring him in. We need to get that. So again, it was literally Mark and myself. So I'd be saying to Mark, like Rocky Santa Cruz, I'd be looking at videos and going in his office and say, Mark, you got to see this player. Oh, Rocky Santa Cruz. Where's that? He said, Bayern Munich. Have a look. Da-da-da. Well, like him. You'd say to John Williams, John, ring up Bayern Munich. Is he available? Literally 3 weeks later, he's in the building. So you felt in control of, like, we brought Benny McCarthy in. We brought Chris Samba in for 400 grand. Chris Samba cost us, And you had a
Benny
conveyor.
McCarthy, I remember him.
Yeah.
They went to West Ham.
Craig Bellamy, Robbie Savage, and you go through the players that we brought into the club.
Was Bellamy really gifted as a player?
Craig Bellamy.
Yeah. Very much. Very good player. When he got the Welsh job, I had a few pressmen ringing me up and saying, go on then, what do you think of Craig? And I said, what do I think of Craig? I said, right, let me tell you something. He used to clean my boots at Norwich. That's my claim to fame, right? And I said, he's an horrible, nasty little person, right? And I get on great with him. But he said, I said, I'm telling you which way he'll go. He's either going to do fantastic or he's going to crash and burn. I said, there'll be no in between. And I said, because Craig is very demanding. I said, if players aren't doing it for him, young players especially, he's liable to like jump on them. And next thing you know, it's in the papers, they don't want to play for Wales again. But I said, if it's going well, and because I said, he's very knowledgeable, he's a student of the game. He'll watch football every day of the week, Bells, if he could. And I said, he's from what I know, he's a good coach. He's good at what he does. So I said, there'll be no in-betweens. He'll either do very good or he'll just crash and burn, simple as that. And thankfully, he started off well.
Who do you think is the most underrated player you've played?
Played or had?
Well, I had managed and worked with.
One of the best in all the 17 years as a coach, and I don't know if you might say, oh, he wasn't underrated, but we went through a year, 18 months with Steve Nyland at Man City, where Steve was incredible. You would have people like, Robinho, for example, Vinny coming in and just going, who's this? Who the hell is this? Because he was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Nobody could touch him. He's the best player in the squad. When we were at Man City, he was the best player in the squad.
Wow.
Who was the most overrated?
There's been a few of them, to be fair, mate, I think. Yeah.
Any that stand out?
Joe. No, I'm joking. Yeah. Get off Joe.
I'm trying to go through the clubs we had. I haven't touched really of you on the most difficult job we had. Let's just say that first of all. The most difficult job we had was, I mentioned to you, Charlie, we went into QPR. So Neil Warnock got the sack. They had we had a few of these, a bit like Sam Allardyce says, where it was almost like we'd get into clubs who had 10, 12, 20 games left of the season. It was like, please keep us up, So Neil Warnock gets a sack. They're bottom of the league. We go in there, and the dressing room was like I've never seen in my life before. Honestly, it was just carnage. Players. Joey Barton was in there for a start. Literally.
Oh, that's carnage.
Literally a fight almost every other day.
Is he just a brawler?
Yeah. The strange thing is, I'll contradict myself a bit. I actually got on all right with Joey, but he is. If things weren't right for Joey, you'd have these little like Toro boxes they have in training. They're keeping two in the middle, a little pig in the middle. We were there one day where we had a little Bulgarian midfield player, who's quite skillful, and Joey was in the middle, and obviously they take the piss out of it, and he went over, and the player sort of nutmegged him, and everybody laughed, which happens all the time. 30 seconds later, ball went to him, and Joey took off from here to the wall and literally 2-footed him and smashed his knee to bits. And you going, what? And you could see the red mist had come down. You going, Joey, everybody stopped. What the fuck are you doing? And he was like, I told him I'd have him. Nobody does that to me. And he'd just be going, what? What are you talking about? He's a teammate. But he would just, when he went.
Was he a gifted player?
He was not as good as he thought he was, Joey. Not, he talked a great game about it, but he was neat, he was tidy, he could get around the pitch. He had no pace, good pass of the ball. But
this is when QPR had money, right? So this was
Tony Fernandez was in there with with
the Mittals.
Mittals had just gone in there as well. So we stayed up. We stayed in the league.
Were they okay owners?
Yeah, they were all right, mate. Again, it was the influence behind them. People saying you got to do this, you got to bring this player in, you got to bring that player in. We'd stayed up the famous game, the last game when we played Man City. So we gone back to Man City, last game of the season. We thought we needed a win to stay up. Man City needed a win to win the league. The famous game when they scored. So the game goes on, half time, I think we're losing 1-0, right? I literally went in the toilets and the dressing room and said a prayer. On my knees said a prayer. I said, listen, go out and start the second half. Joey gets sent off, right, for punching Carlos Tevez. We're down to 10 men. You're like, Jesus Christ, we're away to Man City. We're losing 1-0. We're down to 10 men.
We're sent off for punching. Yeah. It's not like a second yellow on the ball show that he punched.
In the most important game in the club's history. Amazingly, we turn it round until those dying seconds where I think we were like, level with them, if you like. But then this is, I tell you now, this is my take on it. Right? The only reason Man City won the league that year, so we were, I think it was 2-1 up. They equalise, go to 2-2, whatever. And news is breaking. What's happening? We looked up and Tony Fernandez in the front row of the stand, and he's going, because Bolton had beaten Stoke, so we were safe, we were up. So within those seconds of them scoring, all our players going, they're like celebrating. So we come to the kick-off, And we go like, they literally go with Jay Bothroyd. He's looking across, he's going, what do you want me to do? And we've gone, well, just kick it out for a throw-in. Joe Hart comes out, gets the ball, smash it forward, head down, bump, bump, bang, they've scored.
And win the league.
And win the league. And I still say to this day, if we didn't know that we were safe, we would have kicked off, probably gone back to the keeper, kill time and whatever. And they won the league, Man City. And we didn't mind because we knew a load of people there. You know, Vinny, they're all going round, but it was really strange. So we go then that day, we're coming back on the coach, and Tony Fernandez is on the coach, and he said, where you going? We said, we're going back to Mark Hughes' house, we're going to open some champagne. And he went, can I come? And we're like, Mark's like, yeah. So he comes back and he sits in, he goes, right, next year we're going to smash it. We're going to spend 150 million in the summer, which in those days was big money. You get about 10 players for that. And we're going to do this. And Mark's going, no, Tony, calm down. We've got to do it right. No. And we go through the summer, and Mark would be like ringing me and going, Bo, yeah, apparently we've just bought Bosingwa from Chelsea. And I'm going, who? Bosingwa, the right back. I'm going, says who like? He said, I didn't know anything about it. He said, they just bought him. Tony Fernandez just messaged me, Bosingwa's signed. And then all of a sudden, somebody else has signed. So we went back pre-season. There's about 6-7 players there we didn't even like, let alone want to sign.
What do you do when they rock up? You're like...
You got to go with it and say, hi, bye, hi guys, how are you? All right. Yeah.
But that's where you get problems, right? It's when ownership starts pushing players on you that they want.
Yeah. And it, so it was, the whole thing was just...
that must have been the most insane thing to be at in the other dugout of that City title win. I mean, just seeing the...
Yeah. It's just see everything that went on. It was just surreal. And you kid yourself. And I know Mark would have thought, being ex-Man United, Mark was devastated. Man City won the league.
Of all the places you've been, where does your heart most reside? And where are you like, it was a job?
As a coach, I enjoyed all of them. As a coach, I loved Man City. I think it does go under the radar. Again, through that period, we were only at 18 months, 2 years, what we actually did, what went through, the training ground and everything. And we would be sitting down with, the ownership group talking about the planning of the new training ground, thinking we're going to be there, which we weren't, I just said Blackburn as well. Go back, probably as a player, I grew up as a kid at Tottenham. So that's my club, my team. In Norwich as well. I had my best time playing at Norwich in those years. I still, even now, the Tottenham scenario, probably that's... I look at Tottenham as my club.
Has one place. Where is it?
Probably Tottenham.
Tottenham.
As a kid, yeah.
Where was the least loved?
I went to Japan for a year.
What? What were you doing in Japan?
That's a cop-out.
I played football in Japan.
When?
In my playing days.
Older days.
I left Norwich when I was about 31, 32, and out of contract. Harry rings me up. Tavi, come to West Ham, blah, 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 free transfer. Yeah, okay. So I go, my missus is a Londoner. So we go in, okay, we're going to West Ham. So I sign a 3-year deal. We get to the December time, I think it was, we're in the bottom 3. We play Leeds away on the Saturday, get beat. Sunday, phone goes, pick the phone up, Steve Perryman. Do you know Steve Perryman?
No.
So Steve Perryman was the captain of Tottenham when I was growing up. You know Ozzy Ardiles? Yeah. So Ozzy is the manager of a club in Japan. Steve's his assistant, okay? They'd known me since I was a boy. Steve goes, Taffy, how are you, Steve? He goes, how do you fancy coming to Japan? I went, I can't, man. I'm just signed a 3-year deal at West Ham. Yeah, I know that. He says, but our left back's just done his cruciate ligament. We need a left back, and we'll give you this amount. I was at West Ham. I think I was on about $2,000 a week. Yeah. He said, we'll give you 15 grand a week tax-free, right?
Whoa,
but
it's
but it's a 1-year deal. Because at the time, they were trying to build a football in Japan. So what they were doing was they were getting huge tax exempts to players for 1 year. I mean, it was the same time Gary Lineker was out there with Grand Pass 8. So, listen, I'd have preferred 2 because of the money. But he said, so I'm going, right. So I come to the phone. I'm like, call my missus in. And they said, I mentioned this because it'll resonate with you towards the family. So my missus said, I said, right, they want me by next week, right? She said, what are you going to do? I said, I got to go. She said, I know you have. So I said, what are we doing? I said, well, we've just come down to London. We've got the kids in school, good schools. Tell you what I'll do. I'll go. You can come out, maybe get out there a couple of times. Maybe I can get back once or twice. It's only about 2 or 3 months every time. It's 1 year. I'll do it. I'll come back. So I then go in now. I go in Monday morning. I'd written down what they'd offered me, put it into my jacket pocket. So I go in. Ian Dowie's there. He's the PFA player rep. So I go, Ian, have a word. So I told him the story. He's going, what the? I said, I know. I said, what am I going to do? He went, listen, just go and tell H. Go and tell Harry. Go and ask him. No point beating about the bush. I said, sure, yeah. So I finished training, come in. I said, H, can I have a word with you in your office after? What about? Just need to speak to you. He goes, yeah, all right. So knock on his door. This is Harry. He's the other side of the table. He's sitting there. He's like fully like twitched up the way he goes. And he goes, Taff, come in, sit down. What is it, mate? I said, look, H, I'm going to come to the point. Got this phone call yesterday. Offer to go to Japan. He's gone, what are you talking about? He said, we're in the bottom 3 in the Premier League. He said, I've just given you a 3-year contract. What are you doing? I said, H, I know that. So he's in a monologue. He's rabbiting off. I bring you into that club. And as he's talking, I've literally gone like this. I've gone, H, that's what they've offered me. And he's gone, yeah, but I'm not being funny, Taff. For fact. You got to go to Japan. And I went, H, I got to go. He's gone. And he just brilliant. He just went, listen, let me see Peter Story, the chief exec. He said, I'll call you in 2 hours. So I said, sure. He went, yeah. He said, no promises. Okay. 2 hours later, phone goes. He goes, Taff? I went, yeah. He went off to Japan. I went, serious? He went, yeah. I went, oh my God, mate. So I went to Japan for a team called S-Pulse. The reason I mentioned the family thing was, it was a fantastic place. I wouldn't have a bad word said about it, but it was brutal. I mean, I've never been so homesick in my life. I mean, no, you think about it at the time, Harry. No, you didn't have smartphones. Literally twice a week, I'd have to book a call in with AT&T to ring home. I'd have my missus and kids crying on the phone. What are you doing out there? I was thinking, Christ, what am I doing out there? You know,
no, very little.
So it was really difficult.
Was the training teams different?
Yeah, it was hot all the time. That's in my memory. Got it. They looked after you. Everything was perfect. And after about 3 or 4 months, I went to see Oz. He said, Oz, I can't do this, mate. I said, I need an interpreter. Because I said, I'm literally leaving the training ground, going home, and I've got CNN and a Japanese film channel. That's it. I said, I've never read so many books in my life. I don't know what I'm doing here. So they got me a Canadian lad out of the university who was married to a Japanese, spoke fluent. And then it was a lot better because he would come and chaperone me on the training ground, speak to the players, you know. And then after training, he'd say, what do you want to do, Mark? Do you want to go to a bite to eat? Do you want to go for a beer? And then, you know, a couple of nights a week, we'd go for a beer or go for a meal. And it was a little bit easier. Yeah. But, you know, my missus did come out there once with the family and whatever, like, do you know what I mean? And it got to the end of that year and contract's finishing. I didn't have an agent at the time. So I basically made a couple of phone calls and I basically, thinking where I lived, which was Hertfordshire, I rang up Alan Kirbishley and Charlton were in League Championship. And I sort of said, Kers, Mark Bowen, where are you, Mark? I said, I'm in Japan, this is what's happened. And he went, I'll have you. Are you free? I said, yeah. I said, I'm home in basically 3 weeks' time. Right, when you come in, come to see me, we'll draw something up and whatever. And so I come home, drive in the car park at Charlton. I'm in the car, I can see Curbs walking through the car park. So I got up the car, walked towards him, and he literally went to walk past me. And I went, Curbs. And he went, oh my God, Bo. I was like that. All I'd been living on was like sushi and rice and raw fish. I literally was about a stone below my playing weight in England, certainly. And he went, Jesus Christ, you look fit and well. I went, well, I've been eating sushi for a year. So went into Charlton, and that was... How
much you paid at Charlton, comparatively?
Again, probably around about the same, mate. It was about a couple of grand, something like that.
Oh, so not 15, gross. You're suddenly then back on.
Yeah. But I will say, financially, the money I earned in Japan, when I finished playing, remember I told you about I went with the Welsh FA? That subsidised that so much. If I hadn't have gone to Japan, I think financially I'd have been in a bit of, what am I doing here?
That's where it's very easy for us to criticise players now when they make moves based on money. But when it allows you to do things further down the line that you couldn't otherwise do, you're hard pressed to critique it.
Yeah, of course you are.
How much is Bond paid as a manager?
So I'm not precious about it. At Man City back in 2010, it was about 650.
Is that normal for assistant managers?
Now, well, it was 14 years ago. Now in the Premier League, I would think, pick a name. Let's say, who's Eddie Howe's number 2?
Jason Tindall.
I would reckon Jason would be on at Newcastle. 1.5 perhaps. I would have thought, with bonuses for this and that, and for X and whatever. Wow. Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's a number 2 different now because who's the number 2 now? There's a lot of clubs where you've got the manager and maybe 3 or 4 below him, I mean, Albert, who's at Arsenal. Again, I think he's probably on, from where he's come from, 2 million perhaps. I would be surprised if there's a number 2 in the Premier League at any club. I was just trying to think, Luton probably, with the exception to the rule. There'd be none under.
I think we should do a series with Mark.
I was just thinking
where I think we should like bring back like Rocco Santa Cruz, bring back Joe, bring back Stephen Ireland, and
your next gig is doing this with us.
Yeah, like, you just got to join this with us. This is great fun.
Okay.
Listen, Mark, thank you so much for doing this. I've loved it. I'm sure Charlie's loved it as much as me.
Genuinely, I loved it. It's fabulous.
Thank you so much.
Love talking football.